My name's Garrett, and this all went down when I was a sophomore in college. I didn't get a dorm after freshman year, so I scrambled for off-campus housing and ended up in a co-op. Basically, 3 old houses grouped together, kind of near campus, kind of not. It wasn't glamorous, but it was cheap, and, for a broke college kid with a bike, that was enough. Most of the people living there were students my age, though there were a few older residents mixed in. But the one who stood out the most wasn't a student at all. She was an older woman, late 50s, maybe, though she looked worn, older than her age. Graying hair, a limp, and this empty expression on her face, like she was always there but never really present. She didn't talk much, didn't join in when people cooked or hung out in the shared kitchen. She would just stand in the corner watching. At first I thought she was just eccentric, but the longer I lived there, the more I noticed that her eyes seemed to land on me a little too often. One evening, I looked out my window and froze. She was standing in the middle of the street, not the sidewalk, the street. And she was staring right up at my window. It was cold, late at night, and she didn't move. Against my better judgment, I gave a small wave. The second I did, she bounced up and down like a child who'd just been given candy, then darted back toward her house. That night, couldn't he shake the sick feeling that I had confirmed something, that she really had been watching me all along. My housemates told me not to worry. "She's always been around," one of them said. "Ignore her. It's what we do." But then one night after midnight, I opened my bedroom door and nearly collided with her. She was just standing there, right outside my room. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize. She simply turned and walked away, leaving me frozen in the doorway. After that, the encounters escalated. Strange snooping, finding her in places she didn't belong. Then one night I lost my room key. No big deal, I thought, but it gnawed at me. A few nights later, I woke to a faint thumping sound. Every 20 seconds or so, it's coming from my closet. My heart was hammering, but I forced myself to check. I yanked the door open, and there she was. Her eyes were wide, one of my ties looped around her neck, and in her hand a kitchen knife. I screamed, and she lunged. Somehow I wrestled her down, screaming for help until my housemates rushed in. Together we pinned her until the police arrived. They found my missing key on her. Turns out, she wasn't even supposed to be living there. She was the property manager's sister. He'd stashed her in an empty room instead of getting her the care she clearly needed. He got arrested, she was taken away, and me? I just stood there, confused. I was left with the memory of those wide eyes staring at me from the dark of my closet. I'm graduating soon, but no matter how much time passes, I'll never think of college without remembering that night. I've lived in the same 2-story house with my husband Benjamin for over 20 years. The kids are grown now, so most of my days are quiet, just me, my knitting, and the front porch, where I like to sit and watch the neighborhood. Last year, someone finally moved into the house across the street. It had been empty for a while, so I was glad to see life in it again. A young man named Quinn moved in mid-20s, well-dressed, polite, and friendly. He drove a shiny BMW and told us he worked in entertainment. It was the kind of neighbor you wave to every day, the kind you feel good about. For months, things were normal. Then I started seeing her. Young blonde woman, always arriving in a little white convertible. She had her own key to Quinn's place, and she visited often, even when Quinn wasn't home. I assumed she was his girlfriend. And when I finally saw them together, it confirmed it. But the peace didn't last. One afternoon, I heard raised voices outside. Quinn and the girl were in his driveway, shouting at each other. She slammed her hands in the air, furious, then sped off. Typical couples fight, I thought, except she kept coming back. When Quinn wasn't home, Benjamin told me to mind my business, and I tried. But then one night, everything fell apart. Sirens woke us. We ran outside, joining the neighbors as police swarmed Quinn's house. We saw them wheel Quinn out on a stretcher covered in blood, and we saw the girlie being led out in handcuffs. Later, Quinn told us everything. Ellie had stolen his spare key and copied it. She tracked his phone, went through his things, and worst of all, she had hidden cameras in his bedroom. Every visit I'd seen was her maintaining those cameras, watching his life in secret. When Quinn finally tried to end things, Ellie snapped. She attacked him in his own home, leaving him just an inch away from surgery or death. Quinn survived, but he never felt safe again. Within weeks, he moved out, saying Ellie had too many friends who knew where he lived. We never saw him again. And to this day, whenever I sit on my porch, I think of him and how danger can live right across the street, smiling at you. When I bought my new house, all I wanted was a clean slate. I'd had a messy breakup, made some bad choices, and moving to a quiet, family-filled neighborhood felt like the fresh start I needed. Every house was spaced out nicely, except the one next door. A massive property, too big for one person. It's where Damon lived. He was younger than I expected, close to my age, maybe even younger. When I first met him, he smiled wide, cracked jokes, and told me we should hang out sometime. But he always seemed to dodge actual plans, claiming he was too busy with work. Still, I thought nothing of it, until I realized I never saw him leave. No groceries, no takeout deliveries, no friends dropping by. His car stayed in the driveway, but his house was like a dead zone. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I woke to blasting music. I looked outside. His driveway was packed with cars. Full-blown party in the middle of the week. Annoyed, I walked over, knocked, no answer. When I turned the handle, the door swung open. The first thing I saw was a pile of shoes in the entryway, dozens of pairs. But the house was empty, silent, except for the party sounds. And that's when I realized the noise wasn't real. It was a recording. Still, I knew people were there. I crept further inside, down toward the basement where a faint light glowed. Through a cracked door, I saw them 3 older men in heavy work clothes, gloves and goggles, standing over something I couldn't see. The smell of bleach burned my nose. My stomach dropped. I backed away quietly, but before I could reach the stairs, the light behind me dimmed. Someone had closed the door. I bolted, sprinting up the stairs, through the house, out the door, over my fence, and into my own home. Heart pounding, chest burning. From my darkened office window, I watched as a group of men poured out of Damon's house. It's not Damon, just the older men. They scanned the yards, the street, muttering angrily, before disappearing back inside. The music stopped. The next morning, every car was gone, Damon's too, and he never came back. Weeks turned into months. Packages piled up on his doorstep. The grass grew tall. And whenever I asked the neighbors if they'd heard the party that night, they looked at me like I was crazy. To this day, the house sits empty, and I can't stop wondering what exactly was happening in that basement, and where did Damon go?